Thank you so much, Emily, and we are getting underway. Thank you all for standing by as we were connecting and getting everyone logged in for this awesome and final session of our Promoting Connectedness for SMVF. We're focused today on looking at how we are connecting in this new day and age, virtual, which is the new status quo, and we're so excited to be joining all of you. If I don't know you personally already, or at least virtually, my name is Cicely McWayne, and I serve as the Military and Veteran Affairs Liaison here at SAMHSA. And on behalf of our partners at the VA and here at SAMHSA, and all of you that have been a part of this wonderful journey and the challenge work that we've been doing, we welcome you today, this afternoon, and thank you for dedicating the next hour and a half or so to really focus on an important issue, and that's connectedness. We're honored to be joined by some amazing folks today. We can go to the next slide, and I'll tell you a little bit about who's joining us. So you can see myself on the left and Donna Alagata, our Senior Advisor at the TA Center on the right, who's going to be helping you navigate and moderate today, as well as our amazing TA team. So we have some great tech people online. If anyone gets stuck or needs some assistance in how to get those questions up to us, please let us know. As I mentioned at the top of the hour, or Emily did, this is a recorded session. We know how busy everyone is, and we want people to be able to come back and reference this amazing information. You're going to be hearing from both Cohen Veterans Network and our friends at CODA Support and the PATRIOTlink. So please notice that if you do put anything in the chat, that is visible and it will be recorded down the road. So just wanted folks to be aware of that. And to share with you how excited we are to have these two speakers that I'm going to give a quick intro to in just a moment. Let me go to the next slide, though, and give us a little bit of housekeeping about who's here with us today. We can't take a whole lot of time to do individual introductions, but at the very start of things, just yesterday when we kind of closed registration up, we had about 19 different states that had agreed to join us for today. If your state is not on that list, please don't hesitate to let us know who you are in the chat box so we can give a shout out and make sure we get some good recording of who joins the call today. We love to be able to have great representation from coast to coast and beyond in our states like Hawaii and Alaska and our territories. So don't hesitate to let us know if you're on board and you don't see your name here. And thank you again for coming and inviting your colleagues to this event. And then finally, for sharing this, you will have access to all of these amazing slides and the recording shortly after. So if you registered for the event, those will be coming back at you without you even asking for them in a very short turnaround. Next slide. So I'm going to do the disclaimer first, because once you hear about the bios of these individuals, this will feel silly, but the views and opinions and content expressed in the presentation don't necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or policies of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration or the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services at large, or the Veterans Health Administration or VA. So please keep that in mind as we go forward. And let me talk a little bit more about what we're going to be doing today and who we're hearing from. So first up, you'll see on this next slide, I believe that we have the amazing Caitlin Thompson, who currently serves as the Vice President of Community Partnerships at the Cohen Veterans Network. Many of you know them just as CVN or a lifeline within your community. And so we're so honored to have Caitlin joining us here today to get us kicked off. If you're not familiar with Caitlin's background, she served prior to this post at CVN as a recent past director for the Executive Director Office of the Office of Suicide Prevention at VA, and then also had a leadership role within the Veterans Crisis Line within that suicide prevention service line there as well. She has an amazing background with a BA in music from Brown, and then a number of her clinical degrees and doctorate work in the University of Virginia. And so we're so honored to have Caitlin here with us and share her perspective from a CVN perspective, but also her larger community integration perspective with us today. And additionally, she is complemented by our very own Christina Kaufman, CEO and co-founder of the CODA Support Foundation. If you're not familiar with them, I'm so honored you'll be introduced to them for the very first time by us here at SAMHSA. Christina is a recent and one of the important winners of the SAMHSA Voice Awards for her amazing work. And in her bio that you saw that probably pulled you into wanting to join us today, she has her own personal story as an Army wife in interacting with our military and veteran families in a way that really inspired her to take action and help bring together the work that's now going on at the Dakota Support Foundation, which is a nonprofit dedicated to integrating these resources of the kind of fragmented veteran support community. She's a subject matter expert regarding mental health impacts for war on military and veteran families, and has been publicated, I don't think that's a word, but we could coin it here, first time ever. She's been publicated in many publications and media appearances, including the Washington Post, New York Times, NPR, CNN, and other major news networks. So excited to have you both joining us today. Apologize for the tongue twisting, and really excited to be able to introduce you both in this environment to our amazing teams. One of the things that just inspired my heart when we were just about to jump into today's session was the fact that both Christina and Caitlin said they were as much or more excited about getting to hear from you as our state teams on the ground doing this work as they were about the opportunity to share their own stories and information from their organization. So please don't let them down. Let them know about the amazing work you're doing. If something sparks an interest, reminds you of what you've been doing, or a collaborative effort, or a virtual amazing innovation that you have there in your own areas, plug those into the chat so we can capture those as well. So all that said, I'm going to hand back over to Donna to remind you guys on how to get your things asked and answered, and then she'll jump into Caitlin's presentation right away. Donna, any last minute comments or questions?
No, I think people are already moving on the things I put in the chat box. I think we should all be writing in there any thoughts, questions, lessons learned, things you want to share. What happens is if you type in questions, we try to clump them and redirect them to the presenters. People are also able to text their questions if you prefer, or send them to individuals, or talk to each other privately, and you can see that that's possible. We will provide all the information, and if we can't get to your question, we try to follow up. We do follow up with and actually have a copy of all the scripts, the transcribed tapes, and so we will try to follow up and make sure you get any materials that you request, or hear directly from our presenters if needed, if it's possible. So make sure you identify yourself. And with that, I guess we're handing it over to you, Caitlin.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. And boy, am I excited to be here today. I'm so thrilled to be co-presenting with Christy. I think that you will learn from both of us that we're both simultaneously pretty chill, like we'll be able to have a nice conversation going, but we're super energized in terms of what we're doing and in terms of the ways that we can all help each other. So I really do encourage, as Donna said, just encourage a back and forth, whether through the chat box or so that we can just kind of keep this conversation rolling. But as Cicely said, I previously worked at VA for over 10 years. I saw that one of my favorite VA people is actually online right now. We'll give a little shout out to former boss, Dr. Harold Cudler, who's in North Carolina and really headed the mental health program at VA when I was there and did some extraordinary things in suicide prevention. So thrilled to have him in the audience, as well as all the rest of you. Everything that we're doing, we need to be doing together, and so this is a fantastic opportunity to be doing this. I want to just give a quick overview of what Cohen Veterans Network is so that you all know where I'm coming from and what we're doing there. So basically, we've only been around for about 4 years, and we are funded by our philanthropist funder, Mr. Stephen A. Cohen, and he created this network of outpatient mental health clinics to help with post 9/11 family members, primarily military and veteran family members, as well as I want to make sure that we're also talking about the military family members of active duty service members. And when we talk about families, we're also talking about children and adolescents. So I'll talk a little bit more about the population that we serve, but so much of what we do, we still really have strong collaborations with a number of all of you, I think, who are in the audience, but also with VA. We want to make sure that we're filling gaps if VA is not able to care for whomever is coming in for care, and that may include our family members of the military. Here is where we are located now. So I saw the list of everybody there, and that's in the audience, and I think that we are covering a lot of places where you are. And I want to stress, and as we get into the discussion about virtual care, that even if we aren't physically located with a brick and mortar clinic in this state, and all of those dots there are where we have our brick and mortar clinics, we're able to provide telehealth care either throughout that state or in adjoining states. We aren't in every state, and as we can certainly discuss the challenges of telehealth and telehealth licensing if you aren't in the VA. That's been a challenge for us, but one that I can speak to how we've been able to get other people licensed in different parts of the country, even if we don't have a brick and mortar clinic in each state. So our brick and mortar clinics are who do we serve? So we serve veterans, National Guard and Reserve, and a group that we are continuing to see. About 11% of the veterans that we serve are those who have other than honorable discharge status. And so that even includes dishonorable discharge status. And we're happy to be serving that population who is not seeking care at VA as much as they are able to now, with some differences in policy, particularly in mental health. But it's really important that we recognize those veterans too. And then, as I said, family members. The way that we talk about family members is whatever the veteran or military family person says is a family member. So this could be a girlfriend, this could be a fiance. It doesn't have to be somebody who's directly within the family. So it's whoever is defined by that family member. We are currently piloting seeing active duty service members. So we have been working with Walter Reed. I'm in the DC area, so hello from DC. And so our clinic in Silver Spring, Maryland has been working with Walter Reed to see some of the active duty service members who are coming in for care. There are certainly some complications there in terms of providing information to leadership, but we are expanding that pilot, and we're finding that our service members are interested in coming to see us, and so we're working through that. So even though this isn't broad at this point, but we're certainly seeing family members of Guard and Reserves. We'll also see, and of active duty service members. We'll also see an activated service member within any sort of family context. So if it's a family therapy situation, if it's a couples therapy situation, we're able to still see that, that service member. So our clients right now, we've actually seen about 18,000 clients. The slide is a little bit older, but about 56% are veterans, and almost 50% are family members. So we're really, again, we're seeing a lot of family members, and as I said, we're thrilled to do that. Of those family members, 14% are under the age of 18. So we are able to see that child who's like the 7-year-old who is just PCS somewhere else across the country and is struggling with anxiety about going to a new school, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with that service member's status or any concerns that are happening particularly with the service member. It's just with the child. So that's a nice gap that I think that we're filling. We're also seem to be seeing a lot of female veterans. Our percentage is still, of the veterans that we see, at about 28-29%. So what do we see them for? We see them for, it's outpatient care. So we see our average amount of time, sessions that we see clients for, is about 10 to 12 sessions. And this is part of the evidence-based training, the evidence-based care that Dr. Cudler and everyone at VA in mental health have been promoting, as well as other organizations. So this is care that we know works. We've seen it work. The research says it works. and it works within a short-term protocol. So if there's somebody who has been seen for 12 sessions, but they still need more time, we'll certainly see them. If there's somebody though who's kind of has that severe or serious mental health disorders, we aren't the place for them, and so we're that place that where we'll refer them out back to the VA or back to another part of their community. Don is writing, a question came in about peer and provider training. What training considerations and adjustments have been made? So let me just quickly finish this up. Military cultural competence is so important for us. So we have a huge training in military cultural competence. More than half of our staff members are veterans or family members of veterans. And then we offer a lot of clinical training. So we actually have a resource right now that I can forward to Donna and have her send it out to everybody afterwards about caring for military children. And we have a collaboration going with Mass General where there's been a developed self-paced training that anybody can take. It's more for clinical folks to take, but it's free. So we want to make sure that we are not only providing the training for our own internal team, but also for our external partners and anybody who needs the care. Okay, so let's get to the telehealth. So this is where we moved into the real virtual things that we're doing. And we do telehealth with people who are at risk for suicide, and of course those who may have some suicide concerns. So we do the face-to-face video training. The thing is that before the pandemic happened, about 20% of our clients were seen through telehealth. So we had it already going, and so it was very easy for us to pivot into the telehealth realm. I want to tell you all that telehealth works, that family therapy works. We've been able to do support groups on telehealth. The various concerns and the things that we need to make sure that we have in place are HIPAA, are making sure about confidentiality, data. I think there was a question coming through earlier about confidentiality training. So we make sure that we are using a Zoom platform that is very specifically secure and HIPAA compliant. We have a telehealth person who works with us, and if you want to know any more specific tech questions about the telehealth platform we use, I'd be more than happy, to send you to him. In terms of our training for telehealth, we have some pretty extensive training that we do. We also were the first organization to work with David Jobs and his CAMS protocol, and we did all of that training online. We didn't have to go into, usually with his types of trainings, everybody gets together for a few days and sits in a room, and we were the first ones to really just do it virtually. So the type of suicide prevention specific training that you may be getting, or that you may have had, that you're like, how could it even ever be happen virtually? Now with breakout rooms and with the capabilities that telehealth has, training in particular is very, very helpful. The other piece is that what do you do for us? What do we do if we're on a telehealth, in a telehealth appointment and somebody is in immediate crisis? And this is always a concern across the board. When I was working at the crisis line, so many people were concerned, well, what happens if I'm not able to actually go into that person's home or see them in my office, or see them at an outreach event? The way that we do it here through our clinic is each clinic either has a Teams link or they have a Slack link, so that there are other people who are online all the time, so there's that immediate supervision that can happen in case they're with somebody who may be at risk for suicide. So that's a piece that I think is super important, is to make sure that even when you're providing any sort of care or resources, you want to make sure that you have backup all the time. And that backup can be, again, somebody that you work with, but always also remember that the Veterans Crisis Line is very readily available for you. They have 24/7 care. You can pick up the phone, you can text, you can be chatting with somebody, you can do a chat with them. So I would recommend having them as like a favorites if you're providing care at all. Another thing that we had to really pivot with is that each clinic wanted to become a real part of the fabric of their local community. So I'm hoping that if you haven't been to a clinic or if you're in the area of where a clinic is, we have that you'll go when we're able to, but we have community rooms at every clinic. The purpose of the community room is so that we can invite our partners, invite our community members to come into the clinic and provide a suicide prevention training, do an assist training for 2 days, have somebody from Team Red, White, and Blue come and provide information about their peer network. So how do we do that if our clinics are closed? And so with that, I'm going to quickly share my screen to show you. Okay, so first of all, here is our landing page, so cohenveteransnetwork.org. And then I want to show you, if you go to clinics and resources, that over. Okay, so we go to in the news, and then we go down to CVN Presents. Now this is how we pivoted from going and having that community room to making things virtual. And okay, so we have a CVN Presents. So as I said, we want to become a pillar of the community. We have a variety of workshops, seminars. So what we've now done is each clinic provides their own online outreach events. And these are all recorded. So for example, the DC clinic did a virtual mindfulness and gentle yoga. They've been doing a variety of episodes. So you can go in and even though you had gone into the clinic or you wanted to go into the clinic and do some sort of a gentle mindfulness, gentle yoga thing, you can now do it at home. El Paso Clinic has 7 financial tips for life after lockdown. Colleen Clinic is a visual art group for teens. So these are constantly being updated. And then we also, towards the end, we have our suicide prevention and awareness mental health videos, CVN how to do telehealth videos. So I recommend that you also go on to CVN Presents and see what we do there. I just think it's a nice, there are a lot of organizations that are doing these types of virtual events, and they're working. People are coming in. And the other piece that I wanted to show you on our site is called CVN Frontline. So another thing that we did as a pivot for the pandemic was we knew that there were gaps in care for our frontline healthcare providers, our first responders, and our adult family members. So even though these aren't specifically for veterans, we know that even within this frontline community, we have so many veterans who are working in that community, as well as family members and others. And it doesn't matter if you're a veteran if you want to take part of this. So we have online mental health support. We also have offered support groups for our COVID-19 frontline workers. It's been hard to engage in these more formalized support groups. So we're figuring out other ways to engage with this population, but they seem to be coming on a lot for a variety of different activities and information trainings that we've done too. Okay, now I'm going to stop sharing that page. All right, and so I can answer a ton of things about telehealth. Again, here's our virtual community room that we're doing where we really want to engage with people. So I do encourage you, if you want to do a partner gathering, if you want to, as part of your, as a part of the suicide prevention work that you're doing, want to do a CVN and, you know, the local VA presents partnership, please get in touch with the clinic. We would love to work together on this. Okay. Donna, do you want to help me? Should I pivot on to Fabulous Christy, or should we go and answer some questions? What do you think? And I don't think. Oh.
I think we can just go ahead with Christy, but I do hope people will keep putting things in. I think you answered some of the questions that are already in there. I see some specific questions about some of the trends that people are seeing, and maybe that would be a good thing for us to talk about a little bit later, like the times of uncertainty are certainly between economic things and videos and some of the violence and stuff that's going on in communities. It just seems to be a tough time. And so maybe what we need to do is spend a little time strategizing about that and how people might be able to address that virtually when we get finished with Christie's. Okay?
Sounds great. Okay, so I'm done with mine. All right, thank you so much, everybody, and look forward to chatting more. And on to Fabulous Christy Kaufman.
Thanks, Caitlin. Hey, everybody. As I put in the chat box, the work that CVM is doing, particularly with family members, is huge. It's one of the reasons I started the organization, because there was such a gap in support services for mental health for kids and family members. And I think that's especially true for once you're on veteran status, because VA does a lot, but it can only do so much around mental health and for family members. So really appreciative of the work that they're doing. Okay, so what do? We basically figure stuff out. You know, our clients, like most of the people that you work with, do not come in pretty little boxes. And I think we all know that suicide prevention is not just about mental health care. I think I saw someone chat, was it Max, talk about how that's part of your job, but I mean, you know, when you're dealing with someone who's actually suicidal. But I think all of us understand that the factors that increase risk for suicide really coming from all different types of stressors, be that financial or transportation, family unrest, legal issues, whatever it might be. And so fragmentation of effort is really what Code of Support is speaking to now. We created the organization almost 10 years ago. As Cicely alluded to, I was a military wife down at Fort Bragg, 06 to 08 during the surge. And it was impossible, to be honest with you. It was impossible to try to figure out ACS, Army Community Services, much less, you know, the nonprofits. At that time, nonprofits were those of us who were active duty were actively discouraged from getting community-based care. I do not think that that's the case anymore, but the fact is that it's really difficult for people to figure out whether you're a provider or you're a veteran or family member trying to figure out how to get the help you need when you need it. And that's really what we do. And we do that with people, and we do that with technology. Trying to move the screen. There you go. Okay, so we created a case coordination program, which is exactly what it sounds like. We coordinate resources, and that was really driven out of the fact that my phone was ringing off the hook at 2 o'clock in the morning. My girlfriend's with, you know, a husband with PTS and TBI and a baby on their hip and having no idea what to do. And recognizing that there wasn't just one thing that person needed. So our veteran and caregiver peer navigators work directly with troops, veterans, and family across the country. They do a very thorough intake process, identify, assess, and prioritize their often multiple needs. As you guys all know, someone might come to you. The majority of our cases have some kind of financial ask to them, but we peel back the onion and we say, okay, you know, what why are you in this situation 2 years after you get out, or whatever it is. So you peel back that onion, you recognize all the other things that are factoring in to that crisis state, and each one of those has to be addressed. Our average client, I think, has 4 distinct needs. And so obviously no one organization does that, not even the VA. So our case coordinators become that one point of contact and build a service plan with our clients. We do require buy-in. We have a service agreement on our website of this is what you can expect from us, and this is what we expect of you. And because our navigators are all peers in some way, I think that really works well. And I know one of the topics of this call is how you provide that peer support. I think when you start, kind of having that peer experience is really helpful. And the intake coordinator assesses kind of what veteran or caregiver peer navigator they think would be best for that particular case based on their shared experiences and their expertise. And so once they do the intake, and we ask a set of questions that benchmark well-being. So we've customized some questions from RAND. So we're looking at social connectedness, family stability, economic, housing, things like that. So we kind of benchmark where they are. And then they go out into the sea of organizations and agencies and start pulling to cover down not just on that veteran, but the entire family. So we really encourage all family involvement when that's possible. So we know that even though the caregiver might be asking just for his or her veteran, that they're probably experiencing stress too. And again, that's why CVN is so important, because there aren't that many resources out there that we can tap into for mental health for children and spouses. And they coordinate it all, and all the while they are there for that, they are there for that veteran and family member. And there are some times where we're talking to local VAs. We have an MOU with the VA, which is super helpful, because I think national organizations calling down to a local VA hospital, trying to help them, with a service member or veteran that's really struggling to navigate through the VA isn't always received great. And so we point back to the MOU we have. Look, we're trying to be part of the solution. We're not trying to get you in trouble. We're literally just trying to make sure that this veteran gets what he or she needs. So we follow up with our clients 3, 6, 9 months to get a sense of, okay, we provided all these different resources. Are they actually better off? About 80% of our clients have a higher quality of life after working with us. We were fortunate in terms of when we had to go virtual that we already had a virtual service delivery model. We've always done this because we're a national organization. We've always done this via phone or Skype or Zoom or what have you. The other thing that we do is we make sure that we tap into our local coordination hubs. So some of you might be familiar with the local versions of what we do. It can be an America Serve site, AWP, Mission United. There's specific ones in certain communities. There's a great one in Colorado, Houston Combined Arms. We know where they all are. So if we get a client, and about 70% of our clients are referred to us by other organizations, about 35% from the VA. But if we get a client that lives in an area that has a local coordination capability, there's no reason for us to take that, right? We refer them directly to that local hub, and then we keep track and make sure that they got what they needed. So all this experience for 4 or 5 years, we did case coordination. We recognized it was taking our team sometimes half their week just to identify the resources. Well, we knew we couldn't scale that, but we didn't want to back away from this coordinated, holistic model because it was working. And that's really what drove the development of PATRIOTlink, which is a tech platform I'll be showing you guys in a couple minutes here. So it is a free resource navigation platform. We have spent 5 years and $2 million building this thing, and we didn't do it for the 10, 12 people in our organization. We did it for the entire space. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk to states to make sure you're aware of it and how we can improve it to support efforts at the state level. So we'll get into that a little later. COVID trends that we have seen, and this is for, sorry, I'm at my parents' house in Martha's Vineyard. Mom, can you get that? Sorry, guys. This is just the way it is right now. So the COVID trends that you can see, it's been interesting. Our case coordination program and our PATRIOTlink platform saw very similar trends. nothing here is going to surprise you. Finances, housing, mental health support has gone way up, and for both. And so, you know, none of this is you know, surprising for those of you that are working in the field, but all of these things are things that impact someone's ability to cope. And so even though it's not all about the mental health support, all these other factors, it's really important that we're connecting people to the right resources at the right time. This is just a quick little kind of, this is what we do. This is just one story of a family that, that we help on an everyday basis. So I want to get to PATRIOTlink because I think this is a really great opportunity to get feedback from you guys during the demo. So we've all been talking about this, you know, one-stop shop for years, and the government took a stab at this about 10 years ago, National Resource Directory, and it was the right idea and well-intended. I think one of the challenges with NRD has been that the government's just not really well-positioned to vet and verify non-governmental agencies. And so, you know, that's something that a non-for-profit or a non-governmental agency would be able to do, and that's one of the biggest things that we took on. Important to know here, it's pre-populated, it's free, it's been vetted, verified. I'll go through that more, but you can be using it right now. So if you are working with a veteran or family member and you don't know and you can't find a resource, use PATRIOTlink. It's not fully populated. I mean, it's got about 10,000 services in there, but it still could use more local resources. Sorry, I was telling my dad to be quiet. All right, so what resources are listed? Talked about the nonprofit. All right, so everybody talks about the 44,000 nonprofits in the military veteran space. We went to GuideStar, which collects all of those things, and we got the list of military veteran specific, $50,000 or more in their budget, that provide a direct service. That took it from about 44,000 to 11,000. About 60% of those were like Legion and VFW posts, which, while helpful, don't do sustainable direct services. So the core group of military veteran-specific nonprofits, it's about 5,000 that provide a direct service. Just because your organization is not in PATRIOTlink doesn't mean it's not a good service. It just means that it doesn't provide a direct service, and I'll show you the other criteria that we apply. We want this to be a very hands-on tactical solution. So, for instance, if someone's looking for a transportation resource, they're not really interested in getting a veteran's license plate. They want to know how to get to the VA, get to the hospital, how to get to their job, things like that. So we're trying to really populate it with things that will provide a direct service to a direct need. Of course, we're also partnering with the government, and this is why I'm so excited. We've worked with Virginia. I think someone from Virginia is on the call. We want to make sure that we have all the Virginia or the state resources in PATRIOTlink as well, as long as they fit the criteria. So that's something that I think we could get better at. And then community-based, non-veteran specific. No one really cares where the help is coming from, right? So if we see in a particular area, and you'll see in the back end of PATRIOTlink, there's a way to see where the gaps in services are across the country. If we see that lots of people are searching for housing in a particular area, and we have all the military veteran specific housing in there, then we need to widen the aperture, widen the net, and try to pull for more resources in there. So that's kind of the strategy that we had around how we prioritize population. Here's the qualification criteria. I already talked a couple of them. Direct service. So we have about a 90-minute vetting and verification process. And about 60 minutes of that is research. So we're looking at their 990s to make sure that they're financially sound and transparent. We're looking at their website. We're looking at their social media. We're typing in the organization's name in like fraud and scandal and seeing if there's anything that pops up. And then we call the organization, because half the time, you know, what they say they're doing on their website and what they're actually doing are a little bit different. Nobody has time to update their websites. They're concerned with the work. So eligibility criteria is a huge thing, and that's one of the things we add into PATRIOTlink, which makes it so targeted. We also asked during that call, do you have capacity? You know, we built this national database. We'd like to put you in. But if they say we can't even handle the veterans we have now, we'll put them in, keep them dark, as we say, and so you can't find them in a search, and then we'll call them back in 6 months and see if their capacity has changed. And of course, it must be free of charge. Although we're working with HHS and making sure we get all the community health clinics in there, and those are sliding scales. So that's not a hard and fast rule, but when it comes to nonprofits and any private sector, it has to be a free opportunity or service. So if our model wasn't relevant before, it sure is now. I think that, because we've all now been forced to virtually connect, both the case coordination model and the PATRIOTlink platform has really come into its own. We've seen a huge spike in users, as you can see, an 83% increase since the beginning of the year, because people are scrambling. And one of the great things about PATRIOTlink is that because now we're not able to see what an individual person is searching for. I know someone asked this question. So there's a firewall that we can't see what people are searching for, but we can see trends. So we saw early on that people were searching for food. And immediately we populated the platform with food banks, right? Because that wasn't a focus for us before. It was those, there's other platforms that have social services in them, but it sure was now. And because we had the agility to mass import and check everything and put it in, we were able to respond to that. You'll see here some of our technology partners as well. We are not a technology company. We are a nonprofit that saw a need and knew that technology could be part of the solution. I am in no way suggesting here that any technology platform is the solution. Human beings have to be behind it, particularly providers. Most of us on this call are working with a population that is at risk. You could put PATRIOTlink in front of them, and if they're really, really in distress, it's not going to do anything. We built this platform originally for case managers, social workers. It just so happened that now the majority of our users, now that the VA has been pushing it out for us, are veterans and families, which makes it a lot easier to use in terms of how we designed it. But we really do think that this platform, if you're working with someone in distress, is going to enable you to quickly find what you need that person is actually going to qualify for. All right, so I talked about the search trends. You can see the 8 times increase in mental health. The goods and services, a lot of that is the food. Talked about our strong history with the VA. 35% of our referrals are coming from VA social workers, which God bless them, they're carrying a load of like 50 cases at a time. And they're the ones who are actually trying to look holistically at that person, which is super important in suicide prevention. As we know, you could be getting the best mental health ever, but if you're homeless and about to get a divorce and you have no resources for that, it's not going to be the full holistic support that you need. All right, so I talked about this. We talked about the trends. I'm going to move into the actual demo, if I can do it. Hold on. Okay. You guys should be seeing the screen here. So when I log in, I think it's going to automatically take me to the page because I already have a login. But when you guys sign up for patriotlink.org, it's going to ask you 2 questions. It's going to ask you for your email, and it's going to ask you to identify if you're a transitioning service member, a provider, or whatever. That's the only information we're asking for up front. And then there's also opportunities as you want to narrow down your search to give us additional information. But you need to get a sign-in, you need to have a login. And we do that because we do want to try to track trends. And one of the things that we need to do is make sure that the people using the platform understand that their privacy is protected, and we're getting an email and who they basically are in that category so that we can get the data that we need to inform everybody's efforts going forward. So you can see that it's geolocated. I happen to be in Edgartown, Mass. right now, so wherever you are, it's going to geolocate. But if you are working with someone in a different location, obviously you can change that. I'm going to change it to Alexandria, Virginia. Now you can do a keyword search, or you can do this drop-down menu. Right, so here are the things that we have, and each one of these has lots of subcategories too. But let's say we're just going to do a general search for anything to do with yoga. Right, do a search, pops up. Here are the so you can see it's geolocated right now. So you can go out, and obviously it's going to populate. So clearly there was no yoga for veterans within a 5-mile area of Alexandria. But we always start it there because we want people to focus on the local resources first. So you can see these are the questions that we ask people if they want to fill them out. And this is really what makes PATRIOTlink so different, is that we've tagged everything, not just by the services it provides, but by eligibility criteria as well, right? So service need, gender, education, branch of service. There's some organizations that only serve Army or Marines. Deployment history, discharge status, right? So we encourage particularly providers to use that so that you're able to easily find resources that your client will actually qualify for. This is intuitive, guys. It's not like rocket science. So you can see by the profile, we have a short description based on the phone call and the research that we've done. Really easy way to send an email to the organization, to call them. Eligibility right here. So this one is not going to serve family members, just veterans. And the tip section, really important, particularly if you're a veteran or a family member that's been bounced around from organization to organization. So it might be you need a DD-214, or you need a specific a time of month to apply for it, or whatever. So we put that in there. Up here are all our feedback mechanisms. So you can rate resources, right? So this helps us with data hygiene in the back end, because every 6 months we have to clean the system. We're looking at re-verifying, making sure that all the information is correct. You can report, hey guys, you missed something here, this number is wrong, this person's no longer here. And for you guys, the share button, right? Super, super helpful. If I hit share here, I can share this resource directly with the veteran that I'm working with, or the family member, what have you. And they don't have to be part of the system for that. So let me take you just briefly into the back end, because I think once we get this widely deployed, and we are talking to the VA about getting it upstream into the transition process, the goal there being if we can get people connected to resources before they're actually in crisis, that could really help all of us with damage in the pipeline. And at the same time, that you're able to identify trends in service needs. I can show you this in a graphic form here. All right, so this is just for the past month, right? So you can see 73 of our searches have been for financial resources, housing and homelessness, healthcare, right? So imagine having a heat map of the entire country, and we're still building up our analytics here. We're working with Google to really blow out our analytics. But we're really going to have, ultimately, if this is widely deployed, a heat map of need and gap across the country in real time, so we can be proactive and we can say, hey, North Dakota, you guys have 80% of your searches being run for mental health, and only 2 of your resources there are speaking to mental health. Alternately, it can be 2% of the searches are for equine therapy, yet you have 6 organizations doing it. So we're really hoping that the data that we collect, that we'll be sharing with the entire space, will inform policy, program, and funding decisions. So I did a quick and dirty here. Like, you guys are more than welcome on the front end to play around with it. We're also more than happy to have our team do virtual demos for states, particularly analytics piece of it, and how we might support the work that you're doing. And really also very interested in, let me get back to my slide here, how you think that the platform can, I'm doing the blow up thing. Sorry guys, hold on. Now all right. So how we can support the efforts better. And some of that is going to be, we need more resources at the state and local level. And we do have this mass import feature now, that if you guys send us an Excel spreadsheet or whatever, we can import it in, do the verification, we'll take care of the content piece of it. So we need this to work. We all need this to work. We all know we need some kind of central repository, and it's kind of an all hands on deck thing. We built it. We will keep it up and running. We will make sure it's clean. But this is really everybody's platform, and looking forward to getting your ideas and your suggestions around it too. That's all I got.
sorry for the delay. My phone was just not doing it. So that's what happens sometimes, guys, in the virtual world, right? So there's a couple of questions that came in. Thank you both. We're going to really get into some interaction here now. So there's more to say, actually. Cody Garza, who's not able to type his questions in, asked if there's a way that he could clarify how things get posted. And, you know, just in general, I think there's some confusion happening around, you know, just in general. So who would people contact to be sure all of their state resources are listed on PATRIOTlink? That was one question he had.
So the best way to do that is contact our product director, and she is at jennifer@votivesupport.org. So and then we have a content manager that she will then rope in, but that's the best way to do it. So that team over there has a product director, a content manager, and a couple other folks that work to make sure that the data is clean and up to date.
Okay. There seems to be some states, Max Dolan commented in the box to all the panelists, but I don't know if there's anyone else, that in some parts of the country, maybe North Carolina might be one of those places, they're finding that the resources they're trying to find for people aren't as broad as they had hoped, and then in other states they seem like to have great coverage. Are there limits in some states? Are there only a certain number of states covered, or what is the breadth of PATRIOTlink, and what can people do if they want to make sure that the resources they know of are added to it? I think you just answered that, but let's just check in.
Yeah, and there's also, I didn't show this to you, but there is a add a resource feature, so anybody can literally upload something of, you know, whether it is one resource or whether it is a bunch of resources. So you can actually do it through the system as well. But absolutely, and I said this, like there are some places that, you know, we started with national resources, meaning, you know, we knew that we wanted to prioritize resources that it didn't matter where your veteran or family member lived, they would be able to access that resource. So that's what we prioritize. Now we've gotten to the local level, but I think where we're short is local, non-veteran specific, non-military veteran specific that are filling very important needs. So if you're working, you know, if your state, like of course we want all the state veteran resources in there, but we also want to use whatever resources that you guys are using, right? If you put your resources on top of our resources, national, regional, and local, then they're all going to be in one place. So that, yeah, we're definitely nowhere near done. It's valuable enough right now. You'll find resources you don't know existed, because if you're at the local level, you typically know local and regional resources. You might not know that there are programs nationally that you could be tapping into. And I think that's specifically important for folks in rural areas. Like when we have clients from rural areas, we are constantly tapping into non-veteran specific local resources and national resources that they just wouldn't know about otherwise.
Thank you. And building off of that, Bob Creighton had, you know, entered in our Cohen Veteran Network and PATRIOTlink, signed up with North Carolina Care's NC Care 360, and he explains it's the first statewide coordinated care network. He gives the link. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that that's available to you and to folks that are on the phone. And just in general, I just want to reinforce that when people sign on to this, and I made the mistake even today at the start of this call, sometimes when we type in, you may be an attendee, and so there's a drop down that tells you whether you should be trying to type in your questions or comments or feedback to everyone. Everyone means the panelists get it and attendees get it. If you send it to just one or the other, everyone can't see it. So if we're slow in responding, I appreciate people's patience, and I've been getting a few texts to my phone. So yes, you can do all of those things, and we will make sure that if we miss your question, we get back to you as we respond to the chat and print it out. There was a comment and a suggestion made by Dr. Harold Cobler, and he had mentioned to everyone that the VA's National Center for PTSD has worked with the Henry Jackson Foundation to develop the well-being inventory. He was mentioning that it's a nice complement to the kind of valuations that Caitlin and Christy have been talking about. and that it really has been designed to help evaluate transitioning SMVF and has a distinct advantage of using plain English rather than diagnostic jargon, and it helps to match the kind of resources which Christy's talking about for individual needs. So he does provide the link for that and the download, and what we'll do is make sure that that's provided to people along with the slides. And if people send along any such links, we're always open to help the exchange. So I'll pause there. Going back to discussion, there seem to still be some questions about, okay, go ahead. Did someone have something? Oh, okay. I heard it burst on my phone, but okay, keep going. Some question about the trends that people are seeing in these uncertain times and some of the challenges of being clear about, what options there are and how far to go with staying connected with people virtually versus in person. Do you have criteria for that? When do you say that this is not a telehealth situation, this is something that has to be done in person? Is there any of that in terms of your policies and practices?
I can, let me speak to that a little bit. I mean, certainly if there is somebody who is at very high risk for suicide and needs that immediate care, you need to make sure that you're able to triage to an emergency room and get them the immediate care that they need. So as I said earlier, I think that one way to make sure you have some backup, regardless of what types of resources you may be providing, whether it's if you are using telehealth, make sure that you have an open link to a Teams or to the Veterans Crisis Line or to somebody else so that you can make that immediate transition. And it really is very similar to, in terms of assessing risk in using telehealth or using the telephone. It's very similar to doing it if you're doing it in person. Certainly you're not able to necessarily see the person, but at the same time, with telehealth, you have that added benefit of seeing the background if it isn't like a green screen, and able to see kind of how well the person is in terms of grooming and in terms of fatigue. So there are certain visual cues that you still are able to use. Remember that telephone crisis lines have been around since the 60s and 70s, were the first ones with the Samaritans. And, this was a phone call where you really can't see any facial expressions or anything that's going on. And yet you're still able, through the work that we've all been doing, to provide that or to send people to those services where they've been making those types of assessments about whether or not someone is at immediate risk or not. So, I think that it's a very individual case-by-case basis, but you'll have a sense of when it's time to get somebody into that emergency room. I don't know if that helps.
Caitlin's point about using the crisis line, we have a SOP that so all of our folks obviously have assist training and other suicide prevention trainings. But if we don't get it very often, but if we have someone who is suicidal or expressing suicidal ideations, what we've done is we've done a three-way call because they're already on the phone with us. And, there's a lot of, when someone's really out of it, they don't have a lot of trust. And so they're already on the phone with us. So we'll do a three-way call, make sure that they're, that they're through. And sometimes we'll stay on with them depending on what they want. But that is, our team are not mental health providers. They're peer support. They're coordinators. They know the signs and they know when to make that call. But that's exactly what we do. We use the resources that are already out there. I mean, that's kind of our whole model, right? Code of Support provides peer support and coordination services. We're not providing, transportation or anything else. We're just making sure that people get to where it is, and that goes for crisis help as well.
Christy, if I can just, restate what you just said about that warm transfer, which is that moving that person from one person to another, but staying on the line with them is so important because there isn't any break in communication. And the crisis line has been taking warm transfer calls like that for as long as they've been around, and will allow that person to then stay on the line as long as the other person who might be in crisis feels comfortable. So can't stress that enough. Thank you.
I see someone asked a question about TRICARE providers noted and current on PATRIOTlink. The short answer is no. Not yet. So we profile organizations and their programs. We are not currently doing individual providers. Is there capacity for that? Of course. I think that would be a conversation that we would need to have, honestly, with TRICARE, because it would be great. I remember as a military wife trying to figure out who the hell I could get as a TRICARE provider that was actually going to fit me or whatever. But as of now, it's organizations and the programs, organizations and agencies. Another important thing to realize with PATRIOTlink is one of the reasons it's taken us so long to populate it is that we are profiling programs. The VA has lots of programs, right? We can't just put the VA there as a resource. So Wounded Warrior Project has like 18. Each one has to be profiled with the services it provides and the eligibility criteria. Again, that's what makes the platform different, is that it's basically easy to find what your veteran needs at that moment based on his or her situation. But the short answer is no, not yet.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And while you're still speaking, Christy, there was a question that came from Chuck Eastman. Do you have a way to follow up with veterans to get feedback on their experience with the resources from PATRIOTlink Network? And, you know, I'm guessing you have to do the quality control.
Yeah, I think in both of our programs, I think we're more mature with case coordination in that, is that we're actively reaching out 3, 6, 9 months to see how they're doing. And we're obviously sending out emails and surveys and things like that, but nobody really answers surveys. So the calling is really important. PATRIOTlink, we've certainly done outreach to folks, but we just engaged with a firm that's going to help us get a better sense of our users' experience, whether, again, they're veterans or whether they're providers. We do have ways to provide feedback in the platform, particularly around what they thought of that particular program, as was the STAR system. But to be honest with you, we don't have enough information yet on what our veterans' experiences are in using the platform. That's something that we're really investing in the next 6 months or so.
Okay, thank you very much.
We'd love everybody's feedback. If you're using the platform, give us feedback. It's almost impossible to hurt our feelings at this point. We just want this thing to work. You can tell us, you know, this, I don't like this feature. Just tell us. And, you know, we'll take what the community says and we'll shift. I mean, what we've talked about in this whole call is pivoting. We've all had to pivot. And you know, technology platforms can do that, particularly when there are human beings behind it. And there's a lot of human beings behind PATRIOTlink looking at it every day, making sure that it's fitting the needs.
Thank you. And I see some folks, Bob Creighton is, you know, welcoming collaboration with other stakeholders and people on this call, sharing information and about networks that are available. Max Dolan. I mean, I see a number of items in the chat where people are sending their emails and things of that nature, and we will share them and then leave them to you all as to how you collaborate across with each other. And I would say, looking through this chat, that I've hit most of the questions, but I'm getting a sense that some folks are having trouble sending, you know, questions to everyone. So, and it has to do with if people sent to all attendees, maybe you're limited and not able to send to everyone based on your situation there is what I'm gathering. But somehow that limits me and some of the presenters from seeing what you're typing in. So feel free to chime in and ask for a moment on the microphone, and we'll open it up for a live discussion if that helps. It looks like there's about at least 20 different states represented on this call, so that's really, really wonderful. I wonder if we can go back to that question now about the trends. This seems to be a concern. I got asked about whether data was being kept on COVID times because some of the governors and some of the different leaders in the state systems are asking for patterns, and if we're seeing an exacerbation of mental health and suicide related symptoms in the SMVF population. So is there any tracking that you guys are doing, or any suggestions you have about that, or any trends and themes that people should be getting ready to pay attention to?
Caitlin, you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. I think one thing is the timing, and the timing of each of the states too. I've just been really struck by how, for us, it made so much sense, but like in March, we had tons of dropouts, we had tons of people, even as we were pivoting, and we pivoted in a pretty elegant way, I think. People were not interested in getting therapy. And boy, doesn't that make sense? Because we were all in crisis mode. We were all like, what are we doing now in terms of our kids and our school and our friends and loved ones who might have actually gotten sick, and staying at home and learning about this very, very scary thing. And so it wasn't for us as an outpatient therapy group, place. It wasn't a time where people were immediately like, maybe I want to sit in therapy for an hour every week and talk through this. We just weren't there yet. But as we've gone through the summer months, our numbers of people reaching out and getting that help have started to really go up, which we all anticipated, I think, but also make sure that you aren't just seeing the national trends of when people are coming in, but also your state trends. So like with me in Maryland right now, today's the first day of my kid's second grade, totally virtual online class, a 7-year-old sitting in front of a computer. It's been a very stressful couple of days leading up to it. It's almost over. It's going pretty well. There have been no horrible meltdowns, but we'll see. But that's me. That's our school. Our place starting school. And so personally, for I think us and people in this area, it depends on what's happening in your state. Whereas other places, they started school a couple weeks ago. They haven't started school yet. There may be more. They're pulling, and it isn't just school, of course. It's so many other things. So I would be very interested, and I would encourage each of you and your organizations to really track on what those timelines look like, because if and when you need to pivot again and pivot back to going back in or pivot back to whatever, we'll have a better sense of what that time frame looks like.
Thank you, Caitlin. How about you, Christy? Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, very similar. I mean, because we're not an organization that provides direct mental health, what we saw immediately was money, food, housing, immediately. And lots of people with the stimulus check, how do I, if I am a self-employed, there were a lot of very kind of nuanced things in the military veteran community. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at it, but if you haven't, the Bob Woodruff Foundation, really on the ball, put out a white paper about a month after this all went down. I think Rajiv wrote it, right, Caitlin? And it said, it's coming, it's already here. And there are certain things about our community that does make us, does have more of an impact. So if you kind of look at, the percentage of veterans working in trades that were impacted by this, that's a higher number, right? So in some ways, I've said that, having a military veteran background has been a little protective in some ways, right? Because, for me, I was a military wife, the husband that deployed 6 times. I'm kind of used to uncertainty and impending death, right? So there were parts of that, I think, that our veteran community that we saw some of our veterans who were typically in crisis kind of beep up, like I got this, right? So that was kind of in the beginning. And then it just became really a drag, and people were getting evicted, and we had to talk to landlords, and you kind of feel for the landlords too, because they don't have any, so it's our stuff tends to be very, very tactical and practical in terms of the everyday needs, but we are aggregating that information. And as I said in the beginning, our case coordination cases almost completely mirrored what people were searching on PATRIOTlink, right? So when we were seeing a spike in mental health, we saw that in PATRIOTlink as well. So yeah, I mean, I think that all of us are trying to figure it out as we go. We have made some mistakes, you know, and then we've looked at it and said, okay, that's not working. I think if you're really transparent with the people you work with, just be like, my bad, okay, let's try this again. They'll respond to that, right? Everybody knows that everybody is having their own kind of day. So I have found a little bit more grace in our clients, because sometimes, you know, people are really in distress and they're like, get me some money or whatever, but people are like, okay, I'm stressed out, but how are you doing? So we have seen that, which has been kind of interesting as well.
Well, thank you very much, and especially bringing up how approachable people are at this time, because people are being kind to each other at the same time that they're losing it sometimes. So thank you. And you both offered your contact information in the chat. We'll make sure that people have them. If you can't read the chat from where you are, we'll make sure you have that information so they can reach out directly to you with some of their questions if they weren't able to get them in. And I see a comment from Cicely, who's joined us, that mentioned a reminder about keeping in mind about how many dozens of human service students and colleges are looking for virtual volunteer work right now, and opportunities there with different systems like PATRIOTlink and getting into social work volunteer hours and help. So that's great. So that all says great things, and I see Bob Creighton commented that he likes the collaboration. How about if I pass it back to you, Cicely? It looks like we've gone through most of the questions.
Sounds
Cicely,
good.
are you there now?
I am here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Well, yeah, no, just building off that comment, I work, I moonlight in the university environment, and so many of our students are a little bit nervous about going out and trying to find volunteer opportunities. And as Christina's talking, and I've heard her for many years talking about, just send us the information. We want to have your information uploaded into PATRIOTlink, to not feel overwhelmed by something like that, because there are so many folks I know of that would be willing and able to help do some of those sharing and uploading and just spreadsheet data-based sharing. So that was just one thing, because I know everyone.
And Cicely, let me just mention, take it in any. We'd love an Excel, but we'll take it in Word. You want to send us a bunch of brochures? We don't really care. We will take responsibility of getting the information in. But you guys know things we just don't know, right? We cannot know at the national level resources that you all might be tapping into that would not only be helpful for you to find in one place, but imagine a veteran transitioning into your state and being able to identify, like, hey, this is a really good place to live because you don't pay property taxes if you're 100%. Like, all that information we want in there, and you guys know it. So it shouldn't be hard. You can just send an email, and we'll figure out the logistics of it.
That's awesome. That's great. So messy or not, they will take the information, which is so great, because some states have extremely sophisticated systems for data sharing, and others, are like local county by county resource books. But it sounds like there's no wrong way to share the information, which is really exciting. So I wanted to say that I know that we have probably lots of questions. One thing we want you to do is to know that we'll share your names and information with the presenters. You also have their emails. The biggest thing is if you have an interest in learning more, you have their contact information and how to get a hold of them so you can share and send that information. Also, Christina and Caitlin have your all's like names, but we don't like give out direct contact necessarily unless you tell us that's okay. So I wanted folks to feel free to put in the chat that you want a direct call, and they'll work on getting their teams to be in touch with you. And the other thing is to make sure that folks are aware that this is the end of what we call our federal fiscal year. So what happens tends to be that the last month you've been seeing probably 2 or 3 invitations from us nonstop coming at you like, join us for this webinar. We have yet another thing we want you to join us for. And we've been knocking on your doors and asking you to join us for these amazing resource calls. And you're going to have probably like a week or 2 weeks of radio quiet. And we don't want you to think we've gone away. It's literally just the cycle restarting. What I want folks to know right now is while we don't have another slide that'll jump in and tell you tune in next week for, we are asking you to tell us if there's a topic as we move into the new fiscal year that you really want to see on this playlist. So don't hesitate to reach out to the TA Center. Every state has a liaison, but even if you can't find them, anyone at the TA Center or myself, which you can easily find our contact information online, or we'll provide it in the follow-up email, we'll take that information and help populate our next year's round of TA webinars, calls, resources based on those needs that you give us. But I do have one final slide, but let me just, before I go there, ask if either of our presenters have one final comment, last kind of words to share with the audience. You've seen the chat boxes. You've got a chance while I was rambling on to share and think a little bit about what you just shared with the audience. Let me go first to you, Caitlin, and say any final words from your perspective that you want to share with the group.
Thanks so much, Cicely. You know, we're all in this together. We say it all the time, but we have to continue to remind ourselves, especially as we're so isolated in our own homes right now. We aren't meeting up, and you know, your extraordinary, the Mayor's Governor's Challenge, the groups coming together and sitting in the same room, we aren't doing that. And so just reminding ourselves that we are, and especially as Suicide Prevention Month starts tomorrow, we have to, you know, suicide prevention is constant for all of us who are, I think, on this call, but this is a time and an opportunity to just remind each other that we're all in this together, and we want to help, and we want to get help from all of you too and learn. So thank you.
Yeah, what Caitlin said. And also, like, I remember how annoyed I would get when we were down at Fort Bragg and we would have people from like High Army come down and basically tell us what our experience was, you know, and so I hope that wasn't this. Really, I know, at least from Caitlin and my point of view, we started these organizations. We know that the majority of work's happening at the local level, no question. Now, what we do is super important, and we're really glad to be the one national organization that can catch people who don't have access to direct coordination services in their area. But we can only support state and local efforts from the national level with information. And so I'll just plug again, we are going to be kind of like a dog on the bone. We're going to reach out to every single one of you and just be like, hey, you know, take a look at the platform. What do you need? Blah, blah, blah. Because we really think we have developed something that can change the way people access resources in the space. And bottom line, for all the effort that we've all expended in the past 20 years or so, we should be seeing better outcomes for all that effort. And so I think that PATRIOTlink is one of the things that can tie that together, instead of missing opportunities, actually getting people what they need when they need it. I know when I was an FRG leader at Bragg, if I had had a system like this, I could have saved people. I know it. I know I could have. We lost wives in our battalion to suicide. Like, I know that if I had a way to find something to help them, that we could have done it. And so we're really, really relying on you guys for your help here.
That's awesome. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Caitlin. Loved the fact that we got so much great information about what you guys are doing locally. And again, wanted to just share that all of this motivation that we're able to hear from our presenters about why they're doing the work they're doing really does come down to the fact that we're honored to be serving and supporting your work there within your states and communities. So thank you for that. As I mentioned, we are kind of out of slides except for this very last one, which I get to only embarrass people that I love only a few times in their life. So, you know, Christy and Caitlin, just wait for this to come to your way one day. But I do want to share again, for some of you that weren't at our policy academies, where we got to put up this beautiful slide, that Donna Alagata is retiring after so many years of amazing service in both starting the SMVF TA Center and helping get to where it is today. So Donna, I'm going to let the last few minutes just be your opportunity to tell this amazing audience a little bit about where you're going and what you're doing, and to just again say thank you for all your work to get us where we're at today.
Wow, Cicely just keeps surprising me with this same slide that shows every color here, every ounce of weight I ever gained or lost, and my life is flashing before me. But it's a privilege to have served you all and to be part of this amazing work. I do believe that the SMVF TA Center, which is 10 years old now, has been working with state and community teams and public and private partners, military and civilian, helping to save lives, and I think we're collectively doing it together. I do believe that recovery and resiliency works. I'm living proof of that. My husband is living proof of that. I say that because he's in recovery too, and part of my next chapter is to be his caregiver, and I am military family front and center forever. And I would say that right now in COVID times, especially in these uncertain times, often people retire and you have these ideas of leisure and trips across the world and all of that. And I'm sure that those things will happen in the phase that they're supposed to happen. But right now, I'll be giving back to my family and community, and I think that's to myself too. So being paid for work is one thing I'm able to stop doing, which will certainly make life a little bit easier on some levels. And so we're going into our next chapter together. And many of you are still friends. Like, I don't know. I mean, I looked at Tom Miller on here and Harold and some of these names. I think I remember their retirement. So, yeah, we're here. We're here together, and I'll be living recovery proof in the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Donna. And I did not create the slide, but I do fully endorse it. So I'm really happy to be able to share that moment. And, yeah, for those, for some reason, we can't let you guys have your comments be shared with everyone online, but national treasure, I think, is the theme that just came out from some of the great comments from the audience here. So we're very thankful for your leadership there. I just will leave everybody, since we have just a few minutes left, with some really interesting opportunities to share other people's profound thoughts. So I was just in a class today where I heard an interesting definition of leadership, which was accepting responsibility for enabling others to achieve a shared purpose under conditions of uncertainty. And that that definition just really made a lot of sense to me, given the times we're living in and working in right now. All of you are absolutely living leadership, not just a leader in title alone. So thank you for all your hard work out there. Keep up the good work. And if there's anything we can do here at the TA Center with our partnership at VA, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. Thanks again, everybody, and have a great afternoon.